awesome buttermilk biscuits. So that is, of course, obviously, what we are going to do today. And we are going to start out by preparing and chilling our fats. So we've got a 1/4 cup of shortening here. And just scoop that out of the container and flattened it with the back of the spoon to measure. And you're not going to get it all off, but try to get as much as you can. And next we have 1/2 stick of butter, and we're going to cut it into chunks. And into the freezer this goes. While our fats are chilling, we're going to measure out our dry ingredients. So we're going to start off with 1 cup of sorghum, 1/4 cup of rice flour, and since we are using rice flour in our rolling blend later, let's go ahead and measure some out into a separate container and set that aside. 1 cup of tapioca starch or cornstarch or some of both, but you want a cup. Again, starch is something that we are going to roll with later, so let's go ahead and just add that to that separate bowl. Tablespoon of baking powder, and this you can level off just using that lid. 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda, 3/4 teaspoon of salt, so here we've got 1/2, and 1/4. 1 teaspoon of xanthan. Now we just mix to combine. There we go. Okay, so we've got our dry mix here, and we are going to carefully, without throwing it everywhere, pour that into a food processor or the processor bowl of your plant-based blender. And I've just pulled my fats from the freezer. And we're just going to pulse this a few times. 6 to 8 times. I've got some larger chunks of butter here, so it'll probably be about 8 for me. There we go, and see that? See the chunks? That's about where you want it. And dump that all in. That looks good. Now, time for the buttermilk. There we go. And we need a cup. And I'm using the cold measuring cup from the freezer just to keep the buttermilk cold instead of letting it transfer heat into the buttermilk. And let's scrape that out. Now we're just going to gently mix until it is just combined. There we go. So, as you can see, it's still kind of spongy and sticks quite a bit. and it is still very cold. So now is the time to make it work. There we go. And your reserved starch and rice flour mixture goes down, and you want to kind of spread it evenly because any area not covered will have the dough stick. And you're going to get messy doing this. So, dump this out onto your workspace and scrape down the bowl and get it all down on there. Okay, and before we push this off of the spatula, we're going to flour our fingers so that it doesn't stick too much. It'll still stick some. And just try to get as much off your fingers as you can. Still relatively clean. Okay, so sprinkle the top liberally, because again, stuff is sticky. And first things first is we are going to use the wax paper, fold the dough over a few times, and make sure that it will hold together as we press it into shape for cutting. Here's a spot here that doesn't have any of the rolling mix on it, so I'm going to top that off. Let's get more squeeze out of this. Okay, that looks pretty good to me, so flatten it out to about that thick. I'd say that's about an inch. And we still got some more of our rolling mix in the bowl here, so we just want to try and dust the cutter as much as possible. Press straight down. If you twist while cutting, then your biscuits won't rise because it'll seal the edges. And carefully press that out, and boom, one biscuit down. Let's get a little more rolling mix down on here. So I actually got 9 plus a teeny tiny little scrap biscuit. So while this is still cold, we are going to shove that into the oven at 375. So I just checked on these a couple minutes ago, and they weren't quite ready yet. So I turned the oven up to 400 and gave them another few minutes. And yes, there we go. That looks better. So now we have to let these sit and cool off a bit before we can dig in. But they will be delicious, especially with orange marmalade. Yummy. Okay, so biscuits have cooled off, and let's see, go grab this one. So as you can see, they didn't really get much taller. but that's just because they're gluten-free, and gluten-free stuff just doesn't want to seem to rise ever. But it's very crumbly and fluffy and delicious. Are you excited for this? Because I definitely am. That is perfect. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoy your super duper awesome biscuits. I'm probably going to finish off most of the rest of this tray. Stick around to see what I do next on the Deglutenizer.